Hey everyone, my name is Bridget, and today we're going to be talking about visiting Earth's chakra points, energy vortexes, and sacred sites. I'm here in Sedona, Arizona, in this vortex up on a cliff. I'll show you the view in a minute. And I really wanted to get into what you need to know and the tips you need to know for visiting and making these sacred pilgrimages to these places. Now, I have a whole other video on the energy of them, what they do, so be sure to go check that out as a prerequisite. So these places are very magical, very sacred, have a lot of paranormal, energetic activity, lots of different spiritual beings, lots of different energetic stuff happening that can raise your vibration, open insights, activate you, all kinds of different things. And there's actual science behind it, which I'll get into more in other videos. I mean, like, this rock right here is full of iron oxide, highly magnetic. You know, if you're in volcanic areas, the basalt has a certain quality. These mountain shapes have scalar energy, which I'll put a link to another video that explains that as well, what's happening with the pyramid sites. So there's a lot of actual science to it, but in this video I want to talk more about the energetics as you're visiting and what you can do to make the most out of your journey. So before we get into it, which I'm really excited about, I love these places. I have lived in sacred sites for the past 7 years. I've lived in Sedona for most of it, Mount Shasta, and Hawaii, and I've visited many, many different sites. If you're sensitive to energy, it can be a profound experience, and even if you're not actually, it can create extra sensitivity. So it's very special in that way. So before I get into the tips, I would love to hear from you of what your favorite sacred site is, or one that you feel called to visit. I'm always curious. This is just one of my passions, and I would love to hear from you, like, what is calling you. So now getting into it, there are sacred sites around the world. Some of them are chakra points, some of them are vortexes. They have very different energies. And some of these energies have been attributed to different earth chakras, like our actual physical chakras that align with our body energetics. Now, there can be different conflicting views on which one is which, and I wanted to get into this as tip number one for as you're visiting, why this comes up. So for instance, a lot of people attribute, say, Mount Shasta to the crown chakra or to the root chakra. And those are very different energies, let's be very honest. But the thing is, so the first tip is that when you're visiting one of these sites, even if you may read about it having a certain energetic quality, say Hawaii, connected to the heart, or say Glastonbury, connected to the throat or the heart chakra, what you experience is going to be very unique to you. So it might have a general energetic imprint, but how that is funneled through your energetic system, your guidance, your higher self, is going to be very unique to you. And this is what is actually quite spectacular and has an intelligence to it in the energy of the place. And so even though you might be going to this certain place for this certain energy, what needs to come up the most, what needs to be unlocked, will come up first. And I'll give you an example of this experience. So for instance, Hawaii is very connected to the heart chakra. Now, again, there's many different places around the world that can hold those different energies. So it's not exclusive to one. And these different places are also shifting and changing. The Earth energy grid is funneling different frequencies through and opening and closing at different times. So just acknowledge that and be open to it. In my other video with the map that I have of the different vortexes and chakra points, that's just a few. I mean, there's so many different more, and so many more activating and coming online, which is really spectacular. You know, say, I don't talk about, say, Bali or New Zealand or Scotland or Croatia, or like so many different places around the world that are just bubbling up with different kinds of energy and healing and activations. So going back to my example, Hawaii, for instance, is very connected to the heart chakra. We talk about the energy of the different islands representing actually within that the 7 chakras in and of itself. So say the big island being the root chakra. So in this experience, as an example, when I was swimming with the dolphins for a week on the big island, this energy is supposed to be, right, more higher chakra, more connected, say, to the heart, even though, say, the big island is more connected to the root. And after a week of being there with the dolphins, and just being so high and having all these different kinds of encounter experiences, activations, etc., what was coming up the most was this pain, this deep, deep physical pain in my sacral chakra, in the actual chakra, not in my physical body. And it was so painful, I almost couldn't sit up straight. And yet the rest of my energy is just as high as a kite. And as I looked into why, because I have many different kind of healing modalities that I can look to inquire as to the root cause of these different things, what the energy had brought up, because it was so high, was the aspect of actually my ancestral lineage that had some kind of a molestation back in past generations that I was carrying in the present. And so it actually brought up that energy that wasn't allowing, say, the full energy of my energy system to fully move. And so it brought up that block. And so I worked through that block, and everything went away, and I did this huge ceremony on the ocean, and it was spectacular. But that's a prime example of when you're going to this place and you're like, I'm going to open my heart, or I'm going to connect with my crown, or I'm going to connect with a certain thing. And the place is wanting to move through any blocks so that the path of least resistance of what needs to come up can be revealed. So in these places, it will reveal that to you and your own energy, which I think is so amazing and profound. And so that's the first thing that you need to know, which ties into the idea of not having expectations about what's going to happen. Right? It's being open to the magic and just being open and available, which is really, really key and important. Of course, you can go with intentions, but what needs to come up will come up. And that's another thing, that these places are very intense is the word that a lot of people like to use. But after living in these places for years, it's only intense because it's a new vibration. And it's a vibration that's high, and it's a vibration that might bring up the stuff that's out of alignment, so that you can heal and become conscious of it. So that's what makes it intense, is really our own internal or energetic resistance to it. But in reality, these places are embodiment of healed, vibrant 5D world, truly, like Gaia at this point, and especially these spaces are as high of physical location vibrations as you can get. And so it's up to us to kind of up level to that new vibration so that we can begin to vibrate at that level all the time. Now, another interesting thing that you might not know about these sacred places and vortices is that there is very low collective consciousness. So I talked about this in my last video. Collective consciousness having such a profound influence on our beliefs, on our energy, on our behavior. And so if you experience a lot of, say, ascension symptoms or energies moving through, like, whoa, there's so much happening right now in the world, and stuff like that, these places are truly refuges. To kind of take a step back and to reset and to get a new perspective. So it's pretty profound because you don't have to be in, say, the confines of the collective consciousness or the matrix programming, and you can be free of it for the time that you're there to get new templates of downloads to reconnect with your true self. And so that is a profound way to really hit the reset button and create a new vibration in your own energetic system, so that when you go back into that collective consciousness, you can heal it in a deeper and profound way. Another thing to know is that there are amazing different energetic beings in addition to the actual physical vibration that are present in these spaces, whether it's, say, extraterrestrial influence or different spiritual beings, different ascended masters. There are very different spiritual beings that are connected to these places. So I really like to look at my dream time and be very, very present to that, to definitely write it down, because profound profound guidance can happen in these places as well, and different vibrational attunements from these different spiritual beings that are very connected to these specific portals that allows that frequency through, which I can get into in other videos, because, you know, say the energy of the beings in Shasta are very different than the ones here, different than the ones in Hawaii. And so looking at what you're wanting out of your pilgrimage is important. And so if you'd like actually me to make a video about that, like which sacred site to choose, right? Because as with anything, there becomes the popularized ones, but it might not mean that that's the one that is the most helpful for what you're wanting to step into or evolve towards. So being in these places have the availability to create profound shifts, to really expand and change your life. And that's why I've just hunkered down and lived in them, so that I can be in this space all the time. And I attribute a lot of my growth and my vibration to living in these places, and at least visiting these places. And so one of the things, thus, that is another tip that's very, very important, is to really create this as a sacred pilgrimage, because oftentimes it can be one of those things where it's like, yay, I'm going to this place and I'm gonna go to the crystal shops and I'm, you know, gonna go out on the land or whatever, and it's so amazing to be enthusiastic about it, because, as you know, enthusiasm is my number one thing. But to create the space, literally to design into your trip space for meditation, for solitude, for quiet time. So not packing too much in, and literally just being quiet and being present and sitting with the energy. This is the number one thing that I think is the most helpful, because often, even when I visit these places or see other people visiting these places, it's just like, and then you're gone, and then it's over, and it's like this dream. And so if you can, to really set in, you know, a good amount of time to be there, and if you're going with other people, to set time where you're alone in these spaces, so that you can really make the most out of it, because it is in this quiet solitude where we can actually hear and listen to ourselves that the most profound things can come through. And truly, the more open and the more receptive you are, the more change, the more downloads, the more energy upgrades that are possible. And also the more stuff that can come up for you to move out so that you can experience more of this. So that's a really important point. And one of the reasons that I do my retreats, my in-person retreats in these different sacred sites, is because I'm utilizing the energy of the place to assist with the healing, you know? I mean, I'm including, say, like high vibrational food and meditation and different practices to get us in these states to connect with like-minded people, but it's the place that is also holding the container that I'm partnering with. And so it makes it really, really special and beautiful. And if you do want to come to any of those in person with me, I have one in Glastonbury coming up in June, and I think I only have like one more spot for that one. And then I have a sacred women's retreat in Maui in September, if anyone's interested in that, and I'll put the links below to that as well. I'll have another one in the spring next year in Sedona, and others coming up in various sacred sites, but for me, visiting them on my own is profound, but there's something about with a group that it becomes even more profound. And one of the reasons that I do this is also for service, because these places don't have a dense collective consciousness, but yet these places are where the collective consciousness can be seated and magnified in the energetic grid. So going to these places and creating unity and creating these heightened vibrations together can then have an actual bigger impact on the global grid. It makes it accessible, these downloads of frequencies, to other people as it's disseminated through the whole energetic grid system, so that everyone can access these like heightened vibrations. And so it's part of my service too, which is really exciting to make available, say, for humanity. So the whole thing is just very, very exciting. There's so many different components to this, and I'd be happy to do more videos on this, because I pretty much could just do a whole channel on this subject, because I'm pretty much in love, and I'm going to a lot of other sacred sites this year, so I'll be sure to do transmissions from these places if you guys are interested, so that you can get the downloads. I mean, even just through watching the videos, you know that the vibration comes through, and that's why I got out on the land and I was like, where do you want me? Sedona Vortex, and it was right up on this spire up here. And speaking of that, making sure to go off the beaten path, to follow your intuition, not just the places where people say that there's the most energy, which is usually the true, but to go off the beaten path to new places. And the last tip that I'm going to give you, because I'm just starting to move into this rant space, which is that when you return home, it's very important to acknowledge that you have become a different person and to be gentle with yourself and to not just think of it as a dream, or not to just go on with daily life, but really to integrate back in a very harmonious way so that you can carry forth this energy in your everyday life. So those are some of my tips on visiting these sacred sites and vortexes and sacred sites. It's very special. There's a reason why humans have done this for millennia, like made pilgrimages to these sacred sites, whether it's a human emphasized space like a stone circle or a standing stone, or if it's just a actual physical geographic location that holds these ley lines and scalar energies that open these portals for other energies to be accessible. There's a reason, and I think bringing back that element into our modern lives is even more necessary right now, to go to the next level of our spiritual awakening and to receive these downloads and codes for humanity and for ourselves to heal the world and to heal Earth, and to remember how to listen and to remember how to live at a different pace of life that's in sync with the universe. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I have, if you haven't noticed, and I would really appreciate if you liked and commented below, letting me know about what sacred sites you like, anything you'd like to see about this. And if you're new, I would love for you to subscribe and hit that bell button so you get notifications when I do all new kinds of videos on this subject and others. And be sure to check me out on Instagram. If you do want to come to my in-person retreats coming up or be informed about them, please click on the links below and also sign up for my email list so that you get notified, so you know you're in the loop about these things. They're filling up faster and faster as I connect with more people, so just so you know. But now this is kind of turning into a conversation, so I'm going to end this right now, but I'm going to pick up the camera so to give you a view of what's going on here, and I'll be careful because I'm literally on a cliff. Okay, so can I zoom out? Yeah, okay. So this is we're on this spire cliff. I'm gonna turn it around now. Okay, check this out. So over here, there's different well-known vortex spots. I'm right up here by Thunder Mountain. This is Thunder Mountain, the grandfather mountain of Sedona. Very special place. And yeah. As you can see, I just want to keep on going with this. This is the cliff I need to walk down, and this is Sedona. So I'll catch you next time. Love you guys so much.